being recorded.
Program planning cycle. And Rochelle Todd-Umoa is going to highlight some things that will be rolling out at the end of the week on Star Cafe. And then finally, I'm hoping that we have more than a few minutes at the end of this presentation for conversation. So in my memo that went out last week, I highlighted several things that are key to this planning process. And I think one of the things that you need to hear and translate to your staff is that this is a transition year. We're going from a planning process that was really built around those 4 goal areas to something that is more about structuring around those program design and program choice requirements that are in this new strategic plan. There are also those program choice requirements. There are several of them. We have not tried to cover the depth and breadth of those new requirements. We've just tried to touch on a few as we transition. And that's not only for the staff's benefit, but also for the executive committees. I think if you were involved in the all-staff meetings, you heard from Shan that the executive committees will be developing their own strategic plans that align with the AFSC strategic plan, and they will be presenting those in June to the board meeting. So we're still in that transition period of moving from the old plan to the new plan. The process assumes that planning is ongoing, and it's just adjusted based on situation. You know, sometimes we get locked into thinking that once we put something down on paper, that's it. You know, February 4th came and gone, and we can get on with life. And the thing I hear stressed from Shan all the time is a plan is a living document. Now, that means you need to communicate with all the folks when you're changing some things, but we know things will change. And finally, something else that Shan talked today to us about is understanding that deadlines are milestones within the process, but we assume that conversation and consultation will be happening throughout the year, not just the day before the plan is due. So if you've looked at the new planning form and in the conversations I've had with you ahead of time, one thing that I wanted to highlight is the fact that we're trying to get the plans on a 3-year cycle. And the planning form actually has the program staff person identify in what year they are in their cycle, 1, 2, and 3. And regional directors, you will recall that we've been asking you to start working with your staff on identifying a cycle if you haven't done that already. So your staff will be asking you for that information if you haven't given it to them already. The form is divided into 2 parts, Part A and Part B. Part A will be a requirement every year. Part B is something that we're hoping will end up being the section that you fill out only the first year of a 3-year planning cycle, so once every 3 years. This year, of course, everybody needs to fill it out just so we can get everybody in a place to move forward. Your forms, if you submitted plans in FY13, they are pre-populated with the program name and program description, and we're asking you to just adjust those if there are needed changes or edits. We're doing this because, as you know, we've got an official listing of programs and descriptions on Star Cafe, and we're trying to have one source of information for the program names and program descriptions. Another piece that was on the form last year but is getting highlighted in a new way is evaluation. You're being asked to identify within your 3-year program cycle when the next evaluation will be taking place. And in Part B, you'll be asked to identify evaluation as a strategy within your plan and cost that out. I mentioned before that there are some pieces of the strategic plan that are being connected in with the form. And if you've looked at it, you will find that there are a couple of program choice requirements around analysis and working on structures and policy change and how that connects to local, individual, community work. And again, if you use the strategic plan as a reference point, I think you'll be able to see those connections and understand what we're looking for. But if not, give us a call. There is some tables to ask questions, just like last year, around constituencies. Now remember, these are groups that your program has a particular strategic focus. They're not just all the people that might come to an event, but if you're working with low-income women of African descent, then you would identify them as a group, a constituency group that is being impacted by your program in a specific way. And then I wanted to stress in Part B, the 3-year plan is very high level. This is not a work plan. If you go more than 2 pages, you've given us way too much detail. So those are sort of the highlights in a very succinct way of the planning form. Between the form, the guide that was sent out, as well as the strategic plan document itself, we're hoping that those will be your primary resources for completing the form. Let me go then to talk about estimating expenses. If you read the memo I sent out last week, I was somewhat vague about what the budgeting process might look like. And since then, Dick, Carrie, Shan, Lee met, and we have a much more succinct and clear understanding of where we're headed. So estimating your program costs is part of your program submittal, just like it was last year. Lee's already supported you with some information in regard to how to do a cost estimate, and of course your Associate General Secretary is available to assist as well. Estimates are due with the program plan on February 4th, and there's a specific place in your plan, in each of the plans, to identify the cost. Work on plans and cost estimates will then be finalized into the typical line item format. And you'll need to submit those to your AGS in early May. And again, there'll be more information coming, but we kind of wanted you to have a heads up of the big plan of times. And finally, finance will take those finalized budgets and get them uploaded into SL by the end of July. So I hope that kind of gives you a big picture of the time for budget and cost estimates. The other piece that really has not been addressed but needs to be is the administrative plan, or some use the term your regional office budget, your administrative functions that aren't programmed. Those plans and cost estimates are due on February 4th as well. Our department and the AGSs are putting together a really basic tool. It will be very simple, and it will be around function rather than having you attempt to fill out the program planning form as the format for planning administrative duties. This planning tool will be based on basically what the administrative units here in the central office did last year, and it was really quite simple. I'm hoping to have that form to you soon, but by just after the first of the year would be the latest you would receive it, and I suspect it will be much earlier. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a succinct review of the planning process and timeline, we're in from December through January. We're into planning and budgeting that includes your program staff, yourselves, your Associate General Secretary, and your executive committee. On February 4th, you'll upload your program plans with the cost estimates included into StarCafe, much like you've done in the past. Then the review process with the executive committees, general secretary, associate general secretaries, you yourselves, that'll happen between February and September. Much like last year to some extent, but I'm not clear on how Shan and Clinton last year went through a process of hearing from each of the executive committees, and I'm not sure how that's going to play out, and that'll be something Carrie and Dick will communicate to you. The final budget, as I indicated to you, is due to AGS's in early May and will be finalized by the end of July. Just wanted to highlight some resources that are available to you and to your staff. Of course, the Associate General Secretaries are available to you, and we're hoping that you are providing resourcing and help to your staff. We developed and updated a guide, just like we had last year, that accompanies the form. We're having these live meetings, and they will be recorded and posted on StarCafe, and you're welcome to share that. All staff will be able to have access to the StarCafe room. Planning and evaluation staff are available to assist with any questions you might have, or in some cases, if there is a particular need to do a consultation with a particular program, we'll be happy to do that. We ask that you work through your Associate General Secretaries just to keep them informed and everybody in the loop. And then in the e-bulletin this week, we will be sharing the link to the StarCafe room that will have several different helps and resources available. And Rochelle's going to take a moment now to talk about what will be in the StarCafe room. Rochelle?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is Rochelle Todd-Yamoa from the Planning and Evaluation Department. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of the resources that we'll have available for you, which will be in the StarCafe, as Marcia mentioned. And I will send out information about how to get to this this room in StarCafe, and it also will go out in the weekly bulletin so that everyone will have access to it. We have had a great volunteer working with us, Kevin Taylor, who's been working with us for the past few months to help us put together this sort of resource for people to use as they're going through their planning process. The StarCafe room hopefully will have some notes and tips. We've been working with one region to use their planning process as an example. So hopefully people will have access to that plan to use as a resource as they're filling out the forms and as they're just going through their planning process. There'll also be some tips on how to, fill out the information the best way possible. We'll also have a section that has some frequently asked questions. There's some questions that, a lot of people ask across the organization, so we'll have a space there for those questions, and also we'll have some answers to those questions. And that will be a work in progress, so we'll be adding some information that we get as we go along throughout the planning process. We'll also have some resources available in the StarCafe site, which will include the guide, also the plan that we'll have available from one of our programs, and any other resources that we find that might be helpful to you as you go forward with the process. And one of the other things that we would like to incorporate this year is the survey. We're really trying to make this process user-friendly, and so we really hope that people take a few minutes to fill out a survey and let us know how they have found the forms and how they found the process and the resources. And so that survey will also be available in this site in StarCafe. We're still working on a few things, but hopefully we'll have it out to you by the end of this week for you to reference. And that's it.
Thanks, Rochelle. As I said, the planning and evaluation team's available. Rochelle and I kind of take the lead with the planning function. Kirsten is the resource for evaluation. Laura is wears the organizational learning hat, but like the rest of us, we all wear different hats when needed. So, you know, if you can't find me and Kirsten isn't available, get your question to Laura, and she can help out or at least figure out who needs to be asked. Your email is incorrect, so yes, I see we have an extra O in there. All right, we'll take care of that before it gets posted. Okay, so we wanted to leave the bulk of time just for discussion and questions. I know this is a small group and we don't have to fill the time in. I'm sure we have other things to do. But wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about what is clear or not clear. Rochelle's going to be taking note of any questions that we might want to then post to Star Cafe. So you know the drill. If you have a question, you can raise your hand by changing your little block to blue. We do have a small group, so if you just want to speak, I think the queue won't be that full. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask them or send them by email to any of us at any point. So either we've muddled it so badly you don't know what to ask, or we're right on target and ready to go. Michael, thank you. You might be.
Hi. I'm a little would like more information about. I think you have the problem statement analysis that's on a separate sheet. Is that correct? That it's to be put in with the.
Okay. Could you reference the page you're on in the form? Maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't have the form up. Let me just check here a minute. If you want to go on, I'll find it.
Sure, that would be fine.
I think, Michael, are you referring to when we asked to attach your problem or conflict analysis to the form?
Right. Yeah.
I think that's the section that he's referring to, Marcia, when we asked in the form to attach a problem or conflict analysis to the form.
Right, and I'm trying to get to the right page. We've reorganized things.
I guess my question is, in the past, you wanted like a problem statement fairly succinct, like 100 words or something. Is there like a word limit, or how are you looking at this for?
No. What we're going to, and this is a part of our, trying to resource folks rather on the whole program planning process versus just, getting something into a form so you can get the budget dollars. That's important, but the bigger picture is, if you recall from the orientation, we did that plan, do, study, reflect model. And under planning is to have an up-to-date needs analysis. So this is our first attempt to find out what people have and what it might look like. So instead of trying to limit somebody to a paragraph, if they've got a good needs analysis, we'd love to see it and be able to post that to Star Cafe, to the programs list, along with the evaluations and the plans.
Marcia, this is Joseph Gerson. I was working on that part yesterday. I'm not finding it immediately now. But I think the wording was such that it was asking for a demonstration that an analysis has been done.
Yes.
So I found myself just listing a whole pile of resources and articles that we've produced.
Okay, and this is where we're also going to find out what people believe is analysis. This is not something that we have provided help in the past, but with program planning, there is a process of needs analysis that's very specific to program planning. So, what the information is going to tell us is where people are at with this particular piece.
Yeah. So, just in terms of analysis, among the things I put down, it was like about a 25-page analysis of the U.S. pivot to Asia and the Pacific and what that implies.
And that's exactly, and then at some point, some conversation on where we see ourselves fitting in. For this rigorous analysis right now, there is no correct answer to it.
Okay, it's helpful.
Okay. In the future, there might be, but today there is not. So, Michael, was that a helpful conversation, or have we just confused you?
No, that's fine. That gives me an idea of looking for.
Yeah. And I suspect in some cases all programs are going to have is that small program problem statement from prior years. And at this point, that's okay. We're not saying, we're not going to fund programming unless you've had rigorous analysis done, but we need, since the strategic plan, the board is asking that analysis be done, we've got to figure out where we're at with it.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So, Rochelle, I think that's probably a good question for Star Cafe.
Yes, I have that down. And I think, earlier I think Brooke mentioned a similar question, so we definitely have to find a way to make that more clear.
Good. Well, I don't want to take extra time if we don't need to, but understand we'll do another one of these tomorrow morning. The other thing I want to say to folks is that, once you kind of get down in the weeds, if there are some particular things that are challenging, troubling, we can do a quick conference call, we can do another live meeting, whatever is needed to help you get through this process. We're here to support the effort in whatever way is needed. So, name that to me, name it to Carrie or Dick, but we want to make sure that you're well-resourced to meet the timeline and requirements.
Marcia, this is Michael again. I think I lost the question now. About the budgeting. So right now, if we felt there was more money needed to accomplish a plan, then we should put that in to the budget, that kind of summary budget.
The estimate you make needs to be what you feel is needed in order to accomplish whatever your intended results are. My suggestion would be to keep Dick, in your case, but also Carrie, updated if you're making significant changes over, for example, what you asked last year. I know we're not in budget allocation, but we're also in kind of a flat fundraising cycle right now. So, the more we know ahead of time where extra funding needs to go, I think the better Dick and Carrie can work with Shan on what that means.
And then follow up, just the collaborative programming, we have like the Middle Israel-Palestine Youth Program and also Wage Peace. I know you've had some conversations with Mary Zirkle about how to include in everybody's, do you see, though, the Palestinian youth putting in a collaborative plan, and then we'll see some of the elements in the various local plans?
correct. What I suggested to Mary, and I want to qualify this to say that I was hoping Renata would be in that conversation this morning, and she wasn't able to be. And Renata is responsible for joint planning. I think we're on the same page, but I'm trying to clarify that. There is one plan for joint work that names the big theory of change, who's involved, et cetera. But we all know the resourcing, a lot of it comes through the regions. So in joint programs in Part B, under strategy, for a program that is involved in, say, wage peace, in their program plan under strategy, one of their rows of strategy should be named something like joint work wage peace, that says the resources and efforts in very broad general terms that will then be reflected in the full joint plan that the staff lead puts together. So in the case of wage peace, that would be Mary Zirkle.
And so the same would apply for the Israel-Palestine Youth Program?
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to get us to be consistent and also not be so detailed in the localized plans when then it gets repeated in a joint plan. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
And what would your, if I had $1 trillion, would your recommendation be the same? Do you see that as a joint effort?
Well,
or?
See, that's not, it doesn't have a home that I know of where a joint plan could get written. I don't know how to answer that. I guess, Michael, I'm going to have PLT think about that, because the only thing we've talked about are the official joint programs. We haven't talked about other stuff that's going on and how we might want to see that.
Marcia, this is Brooke. So far, we've just been putting it in as an activity.
Well, and that's what, but I can also see some advantage to kind of putting it into a joint framework, even if it isn't, quote, official. But I will ask, I think the short answer is Brooks, put it in each program as an activity. The longer answer is let me also check in with PLT to see if there might be something. We have a meeting next week to see if there might be something else we would intend to ask for. But the resources are in the program. They're not coming from any other place that I'm aware of. Just going to have to, sorry, Michael, you stumped me. I'm going to have to think that one through.
Okay, sure. And I can give you some info about how much work goes into actually doing that.
Yeah. Thank you. Tricia?
Thank you, Marcia, and thank you, Rochelle, too, for the presentation. I have a question about communications and advocacy, and this is something which we're trying to build up within the region, and we have a full-time staff member who is working both with the Palestine program and with the Israel program. I would prefer to see her costs reflected in the program activities rather than in administration. Should we divide her salary between the two programs? So in effect, it's joint. She's communicating and advocating for both for one purpose. So the separation is artificial.
Yeah, it sounds like this work is program work. And yes, I would divide it between the two programs. So it would be, half-time FTE in one, or however her work gets divided out. And Carrie's sitting here nodding her head yes. So.
And so even if the two programs are working towards a shared objective, we still present them as two programs and divide everything out.
If they're working toward the same objective, why aren't they one program?
It's a good question, but that isn't. It's a two coordinated programs working towards the same objective.
Okay.
Projects in a larger program.
And I think it's, for political reasons, it's a good idea that they remain two programs.
Okay. All right. So I get that. I think, I think it would be fine to divide them out. There's a bigger question there, but it doesn't have to be answered, and it certainly is the way that those two programs were planned in the past, right? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. But I think they would want to remain two separate programs even in the present. So it's the reflecting that the communication and advocacy is one program, and so we'll try and do that. I think it reflects too the way in which, as more and more programs are joined up and working towards higher objectives, it becomes more difficult to separate them, and particularly where you just have one resource, such as one person working in communications and advocacy.
Right. But I do think you are correct, and you would not want to pay for that salary out of an administrative line item. It is definitely programmed.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So I think we're ready to wrap up. Again, we'll have this recording up. I will correct Laura's email so you can actually contact her if you'd like to. Wanted to say thank you to each of you for participating. And if you'd like, you can join us at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning as well. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
This conference is no longer being recorded.